Welcome to the Couch Scouts Podcast. We provide league-winning analysis, advice, and tools to help you dominate your league and build a dynasty. Scout, draft, win. Here's your host, Matt Cooper.
Welcome to the Couch Scouts Podcast. I am your host, Matt Cooper. I'm back. And with me are my co-hosts. Thanks for holding down the fort, fellas. I got Matt Rupert.
How you doing, my man?
And Matt Jackson.
Dude, I'm out of the podcasting seat. Let's go.
Out of the hosting seat. You're still on the show.
Out of the hosting seat.
Yeah, man. It's good to be back. How have you guys been doing?
I mean, really good. I was excited to see you last week. You know, we could have done this last week, but somebody decided to go to the movies.
Yeah, I know. Sorry about that, guys.
At least was the movie good?
It was pretty good. Entertaining at the very least. So, yeah, no, I got invited to go see a movie, and tickets are half off on Tuesday nights here, and or more than half off. There's like $5 movie tickets, and I was so out of the habit of podcasting that when they said, "Hey, can you go see the movie on Tuesday night?" I was like, "Sure," and then I was like, "Crap." I've already been out 3 weeks, and now I'm going to bail on these guys again. So, yeah, appreciate you guys holding down the fort. One more week for me last week since I had already bought the movie ticket. But, yeah, we're back, ready to get into it, continuing a series that you guys started and have been running with the last couple weeks, a series on positional buys and sells. So you guys covered quarterbacks. And then last week with Garrett, you guys covered running backs. And this week we're going to be talking wide receivers, wide receiver buys and wide receiver sells. We're going to be using Dynasty Data Labs ADP, which if you don't know, that stands for average draft position. So we're going to be looking at startup draft ADP and kind of just saying, hey, who are some guys that we like the value where they're going, and who are some guys that maybe we don't so much. So, yeah, excited to get into the wide receiver position, and I will throw it to you first, Rupert. We'll start with the buys. Who is your first wide receiver buy?
I had A.J. Brown as my wide receiver buy. He's currently going wide receiver 15, 34th overall. And this is a guy that, you know, he played 13 games last year, still went over 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, and that's still a respectable season for a wide receiver, and he did that with missing time. He's still only 27. The 2 years prior to last year, he finished as wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 6 overall, respectively. I don't understand why people seem so low on him right now. He's, to me, a guy that's still a top 8 wide receiver for fantasy and dynasty purposes. He still has years left in the league. It's not like he's 29, 30 years old. And you and me, Coop, have seen evidence of how low people seem to view him right now, as we're basically able to get him for like Wan'Dale Robinson and a late 26 first. It seems like people are really low on him after like one season with a couple injuries where he missed some time, and it wasn't even that much time. He still had a respectable season. So
I wonder how much of that is the narrative of like the Eagles offense is just Saquon Barkley focused now, and Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball, so we want nothing to do with the pass catchers. Like it's a faulty narrative, I feel like, but I feel like some of that narrative is wrongly affecting A.J. Brown's value. So yeah.
Yeah, so I don't hate this call out at all. On a per game basis, to your point, Rupert, he was wide receiver 12 last season, so more than a respectable season. He was still a wide receiver 1 when he was out there on the field, and you know, quite a few games over 20 points where he like helped you win a week, probably more often than not, honestly. So yeah, a little bit of a down year. You know, getting a little bit up there in years, but like not too bad, like 27, I think. So it's not crazy. The only thing I'll disagree with you on, you said he's a top 8 for you. I'm not sure I think he's more appropriately priced for me than like I think our co-owner league where we got him for so cheap was kind of a unique circumstance where that guy has been trying to blow it up and sell all his vets for months, and he keeps posting, hey, everybody's for sale, everybody's for sale, everybody's for sale, and nobody was giving him any offers. And so we sent him an offer, and I think we kind of he's just was so hungry to hit the reset button that I think we got a really good deal on that. I don't think you could get him for that in most leagues. But yeah, for me, I think where he's at is it's an appropriate price at his age. Like, he's still going to give you really good production for a couple more years. But I wouldn't necessarily have him up in the same tier as some of the younger studs that are up above him. So anyway, I do like that call out though, because I think for a contender, like, you can definitely get a difference making producer on your team. Not cheap, but not breaking the bank either, shall we say. So Jackson, who do you got? Who's your wide receiver buy?
Yeah, so I've thrown this one out several times in the offseason, but I don't think there's much better of value right now at the wide receiver position than Jackson Smith-Njigba. Currently, right now, according to Dynasty Data Lab, is going at wide receiver 12. Going behind wide receivers like Ladd McConkey, Marvin Harrison Jr., Drake London, Nico Collins, Puka Nacua, and the list goes on. I understand that his ADP right now going at a third-round ADP, it's not a cheap price to pay for Jackson Smith-Njigba, but he's coming off the heels of a 100 reception, over 1,100 receiving yards, and 6 touchdown campaign. And that was with DK Metcalf in the fold. Yes, they have Cooper Kupp now. I would argue they have a better quarterback. Say what you want about Sam Darnold, but I think he's a better option right now than they were getting last season. And you're getting him at almost a wide receiver 2 price, borderline last pick at wide receiver 1 numbers. I mean, for me, that's a value. I think his targets could potentially only go up this year. There's not a whole lot of competition. Yes, they have Cooper Kupp, but I mean, he's getting up there in age. I'm not sure how many targets he's really going to take away from Jackson Smith-Njigba. We saw him break out last year. Everybody that was holding JSN was waiting on that breakout, and we got it last year. So I think he only takes a step forward this year. And right now, I think I would feel comfortable saying I would prefer Jackson Smith-Njigba at least over 4 of those guys I mentioned, right? I would take him, I think, pretty comfortably above Ladd McConkey. Marvin Harrison Jr. is a difference maker, but I would take him above Harrison Jr. I think I would take him above Drake London. And as we're going to talk, we may hit on later in the show, I think I would take him above Nico Collins too. So he might be appropriately priced, but I think, talking value right now, he's a screaming buy for me.
Yeah, I like that take. I mean, JSN is a player that we have liked. Not that we were alone in that. I mean, he was the consensus wide receiver 1 in his class. But, when he landed at the Seahawks with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf, we knew we were going to have to be patient. And I think, yeah, you're right. This is the time that patience finally pays off. I mean, it did for you last year, but I think he could even take another step forward this year with those guys gone. Because even Lockett, he had a down year last year. He's getting old, but he was still there. It wasn't just DK. It was Lockett was still there too. So yeah, and both of those guys are gone. So definitely a good opportunity for JSN there to put his name not just as a top receiver, but potentially a top 5 wide receiver, where we're talking about him maybe as an elite fantasy option after this season. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that. For me, I went with T. Higgins as my wide receiver buy. He is the wide receiver 18 on this ADP list and the 46th overall player. So what I'm not going to sit here and say is that T is cheap. So shout out Tyler Bibb. He's one of the pastors at my church, and he also subscribes and listens to the podcast and everything. And I saw him last night. We were talking about it. He said, "Who are you going to shout out for your wide receiver buy?" I said, T. Higgins. And he was like, "Dude, he's so expensive though." And I was like, "Yeah, but you're playing in a league with a bunch of Clemson fans." And he's a Clemson grad. So he's probably a little bit more expensive in Tyler's league than some others. But yeah, I mean, he's a 4th round startup pick. He's someone that you likely have to pay at least a mid-first to get. So he's not a cheap buy. That being said, if I'm a contender and I want to pay up for somebody who's going to make a real tangible difference in helping me win a championship, Higgins might be my guy, right? Like he finished as the wide receiver 6 on a per game basis last year. That's really good. And, you know, he was absolutely league winning type of player to have in your wide receiver 2 or wide receiver 3 spot. I know I was able to snag him for a late first in some places around the trade deadline last year because, you know, I think it was coming off like another soft tissue thing where he missed a couple of weeks and people were getting fed up. And so I got him at what I think was a real bargain. And he was a major contributor for me, dominated the fantasy playoffs. He's still just 26 years old. I think he's a little discounted still, even now because of the injury history, which somewhat valid, right? I get it. If people have been burned by it, they feel scared off of him. Some of that stuff, though, can be really fluky with the injury. Like a guy gets a reputation because of a streak of bad luck, and then you can get him cheaper than you should. And all of a sudden his luck turns around and you reap the rewards the rest of his career. I think about like early career Christian McCaffrey.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, he misses essentially 2 straight seasons with the Panthers, and everybody thinks he's just totally made of glass. And, you know, obviously he had the injury last year, but he had multiple like league winning years in a row where he played every game and was healthy. And it was like, okay, there was some fluky stuff happening, and then he had a good streak of luck. And similar things to Keenan Allen. Early in Keenan Allen's career, he was considered injury prone because he had a bad run of luck. And then he had a lot of years where he was really healthy and really reliable and consistently great for fantasy, and you could have gotten him cheap at a certain point. So I think there's an element of that here with T. Higgins. I can't think of another good reason besides his injury history that he would be going a full round later than Rupert's guy, A.J. Brown. I mean, I think I'd rather have T, to be honest. That, you know, he's younger than A.J. Brown. He produced better more recently. Like, you know, A.J. Brown's coming off of a down year. T. Higgins is coming off of his best year. Same age, by the way, as Nico Collins, and better production on a per game basis last year than Nico Collins. Nico is wide receiver 8. He's going 2.5 rounds above T. Higgins in startups. And by the way, they both missed 5 games. So why would the injury thing apply to T but not Nico? So he's going below Ted McMillan in startups. T. Higgins is. Like, I think that's a mistake. If someone offered you Nico Collins for Ted McMillan, you'd smash accept, right?
Yeah.
So why does T. Higgins not get the same respect? Like, they're the same age. T. Higgins is even more productive. I'd even argue like Nico has a little bit more uncertainty with Jaden Higgins. They just spent an early second round on basically a Nico Collins clone. They brought in Jalen Knoll. Christian Kirk is there. It's like, how is all that going to shake out? T. Higgins is running it back with the same situation, right? Like, Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, offense is running through those guys. Like, I see no reason why he can't come out and put up another high-end wide receiver 1 season. And I think he's not cheap, but he does present a value right now in dynasty leagues.
Well, it's not the same situation, though, if you think about it, because previous years, I mean, they've been doing that franchise tag thing. You never knew if he was actually going to get signed long-term. I mean, I think that paired with the injury history was the only thing that were turning people off about T. Higgins. And if you want to see what a team is doing, right, you follow the money. The majority of the Bengals' cash, their salary cap money, is tied into the offensive side of the ball. Like, they're going to be throwing the ball, and their defense, we know as of last year, is not good enough to not allow guys to put up 30 points a game where Joe Burrow is forced to throw the ball. Like, I don't see a situation, you know, barring injury, and you never can bet on injury, that T. Higgins just doesn't get his. And so I love that call out.
Yeah. And that I mean, we talk about the Nico Collins thing. That wasn't intended to turn into like a sell Nico Collins segment. Like, I like Nico. I think he's a really good player. I just don't understand why T is being viewed like multiple tiers below him.
I was play devil's advocate here. He's never finished above wide receiver 17 in a year, ever in his 5 years in the league. And he's always going to be number 2, whereas Nico is the number 1 on his team. So, I mean, I could see why he's viewed this way. I mean, honestly, I think it's pretty fair value. I do agree though, he does have that, like league winning upside to help you, because I think his talent's ridiculous, and as long as he can stay healthy, and Joe Burrow is good enough to support like two wide receiver ones. So I do really like him as a potential buy, because I feel like some people like you said, have soured on him more, that have been holding on to him for years. So you can probably get him for cheaper than what, like even these rankings kind of suggest.
Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned, wide receiver 17 on a total season, total points, but again, wide receiver 6 on a per game basis. So he had a good streak of health there to end the season. And, if he can keep that up and kind of turn that around and play a full healthy season, I think he's going to finish inside the top 10 fantasy wide receivers, to your point, for the first time in his career. And I think, again, people are going to be looking at like, why was he going so late in startups last year? So yeah,
Such
let's
a fun,
take
talented player to watch. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping that we were going to get him with the Panthers, but I don't mind getting Ted McMillan. So, all right. Well, before we move on to our wide receiver sells, we're going to take a quick break to shout out the Couch Scouts family here, the Couch Scouts website. If you don't know, we're more than just a podcast. We have a website, CouchScouts.com, where you can go, and we've got all kinds of tools and analysis and advice to help you dominate your league. Our philosophy is, if you scout really well, you're going to dominate your rookie draft year after year after year. And if you dominate your rookie draft, you're going to accrue value. You're going to have all the weapons to make whatever trade you want to make. And that's going to lead to you building that dynasty that everybody's after. That's kind of our philosophy around here. And so we've got a lot of tools to help you do that. We've got a rookie guide. I know I've still got 2 rookie drafts going on right now. So we covered 70 plus prospects in that rookie guide, in-depth scouting report, film breakdowns, film grades, rankings, positional rankings, color-coded by tier. Like it's the ultimate cheat sheet for your rookie drafts. We also are offering 30-minute, like a one-on-one consultation with one of the 3 of us, where we'll look over your roster. We'll talk strategy with you. We'll help you make a plan for your draft. We've been doing a lot of those since the draft, since late April. Rupert, you've probably done darn near 20 or 30 of those things. So, and it's
They've
fun.
Like fun too.
We love getting to know the guys that are listening and that are subscribed and part of the family, and just helping and giving that personalized advice. So that's been a real highlight. We have a bonus podcast every single week that's just for members. We'll be recording that right after we get off of here. We've got an all 22 film room that's got Devy underclassmen players. So if you want to get in there and scout Arch Manning, Jeremiah Smith, Jeremiah Love, a lot of the big name college players, we've got it in there. So a lot of value. Definitely want to check out CouchScouts.com and join the family today for as little as $5 a month. And you can save 15% with an annual subscription. So with all that being said, let's get into our wide receiver sells, and I'll throw it back to you, Rupert, to start us off. I really like who you picked here. Tell the people who your wide receiver sell is.
Sell George Pickens if you still have him on your roster. He's still being valued at a wide receiver 32, 84th overall. I mean, in his 3 years, he's finished as wide receiver 37, 26, and 42. And, he has those highlight plays, those spectacular catches, those ridiculous, acrobatic, one-handed catches that, you see on SportsCenter all the time. But then to go along with those, you see boneheaded decisions. They kind of equal out, and the Steelers just had enough, shipped them off for hardly anything to the Cowboys. And, he's clearly going to be the wide receiver 2 on this team. CeeDee Lamb locked in wide receiver 1. And I don't think he's the kind of person that can handle, being the number 2 target on his team very well. So I don't really see this experiment playing out too well. I see him as being a guy that bounces around the league from team to team, just because he does have really good talent, like a Deontay Johnson, as we saw last year, bounce around the 6 different teams in one season. And I think people are still seeing this shiny new landing spot. Like, oh, it's in the Cowboys offense. He's going to get fed targets. He's not going to be in a run first offense. Like, no, he's just not that guy. So take advantage while people are, excited about this landing spot and sell him before everyone else sours on him.
I will say if he's going at second round ADP, like I just saw him go in a startup draft that I'm in currently right now.
Oh my gosh.
No.
That just for people who don't know the context, you had a guy that took Shedeur Sanders in the first round of a startup and then George Pickens in the second round and was promptly booted from the league because he was trolling everybody. So it's a little bit of a unique circumstance, to say the least.
I just have to throw it out there.
But
no, looking at George Pickens, though, in all seriousness, like for everything that you said, like I don't think that he's the type of guy that is going to demand targets. And I think now is a prime time to sell him. Like you see all the camp reviews coming out right now. Beat writers are writing about how amazing George Pickens looks in camp right now. Coaches are raving about him. So I think you can even sell him for a little more than the price indicates right now. Based on what he finishes at as a wide receiver, like I just don't think he has the talent to support going where he is right now. So, yeah, I totally agree with George Pickens' call out right there.
Yeah, so there's an adage that I think applies really well to George Pickens, and it's when someone shows you who they are, believe them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
When somebody shows you who they are, believe them. And he's shown he's low character. He's shown he's not a target earner. He's not a good route runner. A lot of people will make an excuse. Those numbers that you pointed out, Rupert, that he, has finished as a wide receiver 3 or worse for most of his career, had the one wide receiver 26 finish, where he had the chemistry, I think, with Russ to an extent, was catching the jump balls. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But yeah, to your point though, people will attribute that to the Steelers offense and they'll make every excuse in the book for him. But I think we've seen over and over and over again that if somebody's a stud, even in a bad offense, they'll earn targets and they'll produce. I mean, look at Malik Neighbors last year, right? And George Pickens, I just think he's a jump ball guy. Like you said, there's going to be fun highlights in there, but I think the talent is really overrated. There's so many things that, like just my philosophy, the way that I evaluate the wide receiver position, I believe targets are earned. And so if you're not earning targets, that's a red flag. I believe it's directly correlated to route running. And, I believe that people way too much will equate upside at the wide receiver position with size and speed and just like general athletic profile, which Pickens absolutely has, where I believe wide receiver upside is tied to route running. So, yeah, I think for years people have been clinging to this perceived upside with George Pickens that I just don't think is there. I think in a better offense, he could maybe be a wide receiver 2 instead of a wide receiver 3, fantasy wise, but I don't think he's going to be a whole lot higher than that. And I totally agree with you that there's a very good chance he wears out his welcome and he just gets bounced from the Cowboys and then bounced from somebody else. It's like, he's so young, but it wouldn't shock me if we look up 2-3 years down the road and he's basically out of the league, irrelevant, because he's worn out his welcome with the personality and the attitude and the unwillingness to block for his team and the tantrums on the sideline, the whole thing. So I love that sell call out. I'm 100% with you on that. And well said, Rupert. So Jackson, who is your wide receiver sell?
Yeah, so I just want to start this off by saying when I was making our show sheet, I always try to throw in some suggestions and just guys that I'm looking at. And the one thing that I noticed is when it comes to wide receiver sells, like value-wise, there's not a ton of guys that I'm disagreeing a lot with the value. Like I like a lot of the ADP of where a lot of these wide receivers are going. But one that I'm not crazy about, if you go a little bit down the list, you're looking at Matthew Golden at wide receiver 31. And yes, I know like wide receiver 31, like why am I talking about a guy that looking right now is going in the 7th round of ADP. Well, because the 7th round still provides value. I mean, right around him, the same round, you're looking at guys like Joe Mixon, Jamison Williams. After him, Ricky Pearsall, Brandon Ayuk, Luther Burden, Jerry Jeudy, Mike Evans, Jackson Dart. Like, there's still value right around the range he's going at, and we can all agree safely that we didn't like Matthew Golden's landing spot. Landing with the Packers in the first round, like he's having to compete with targets with Jaden Reed, Christian Watson, Romeo Dobbs. I mean, even Dontavian Wicks occasionally will pop off here and there. Like that wide receiver room is so crowded, and the Packers have shown time and time again that they're not going to pepper one guy with targets. They're going to ride the hot hand, and you never know who's going to come out. I mean, those wide receivers honestly are best ball guys more than anything, and I think that's what Matthew Golden is going to end up being, like a Best Buy guy that I'm not really interested in having on my roster. Like all those guys that I mentioned later, like I would feel more comfortable in providing me more value than Matthew Golden would right now. And I just while we like the talent coming out of college, I don't think he has the talent to really ascend to a true wide receiver one type of role. So for that reason, Matthew Golden is a sell for me.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't hate that take. Matthew Golden for me is he's all right, like he's not terrible. I'm not looking at him like he's this huge bust, but he doesn't really jump off the page at anything except for, I guess, speed, which I didn't even like on his tape. I didn't think he was slow, but I wouldn't have guessed 4.29. Yeah, the draft capital is really good, and he has, I guess, because of that draft capital, I would say that the upside is there for him to outperform that ADP. But yeah, I agree with you about the diluted target share there. They spread the ball around a ton. There's a bunch of guys. You didn't even mention like the tight ends, Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave are both going to be involved to an extent. So yeah, I think you're probably going to see in a couple of, if I had to guess and project, in a couple of years, he's going to be somebody that we're talking about similarly to the ways that we talk about like a Jordan Addison, like a, like this, he just is who he is. He's a low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3 at best. Like he's fine. You can put him in your lineup, but there's not a lot of upside there in my opinion. All right, Rupert, you got anything you want to weigh in on Matthew Golden?
You hit the nail on the head for me. Like he's just a meh guy. I agree. Like I didn't see that 4.29 speed on film. The landing spot wasn't the greatest for getting a ton of targets. So yeah, I agree. I think he's being valued too high just based on the first round draft capital.
All right. So to wrap it up, my wide receiver sell is a guy who I actually really liked his tape coming out as a prospect. And that's Zay Flowers. So Zay Flowers, he flashes some really nice route running. He's really electric after the catch. He is undersized. I don't think he's really he is the best wide receiver on his team, but I don't think he's really meant to be a number one wide receiver. I think he's a really good complementary piece. And they use him that way in that offense, even though he's like their top wide receiver. They also kind of funnel a lot through the tight end position, and obviously Lamar runs a lot. And so his target share doesn't reflect a number one wide receiver. And he's going wide receiver 22 on this ADP list, 63rd overall. So this is the thing for me, wide receiver 22, but he's never finished so he was wide receiver 25 overall, I believe, this year, but he was wide receiver 36 on a per game basis. He played every game and he averaged 12 fantasy points a game, 12 and a half, very mad numbers. Like put him in a flex spot, he's going to do okay for you. He'll pop off here and there, but he was wide receiver 32 on a per game basis last year, wide receiver 36 this year. So Foz said it well in our Discord. He said, we know exactly what he is, but he's still young enough that people may still think his upside is higher than that. And I think that hits the nail on the head. Like, he's still young, and people think, like, okay, maybe Mark Andrews moves on, or maybe, the offense throws the ball more. Maybe he goes somewhere else that's a better spot, and he gets more volume because it's the offense's fault because he's with the Ravens. I hear all kinds of things, but I think he is who he is. I think he's a wide receiver, low end wide receiver 2, high end wide receiver 3. But just this week, I sent Flowers and the rookie 201 in a 12-team league to move up into the high first, grab Travis Hunter. Like, I mean, y'all know how much we love Travis Hunter, but
I got so mad when I saw that trade. I was like, I wish I could have pulled that one off.
Yeah, well, you got Genty, so you'll be all right. But anywhere that I can package Flowers on name value and youth with another piece and go get an upgrade to an actual difference maker like T. Higgins, who we talked about earlier, like, that's a move I want to make. As far as ADP goes, I would vastly prefer Xavier Worthy, Devontae Smith, Rome Odunze, who are going in a similar range to him. And I'd be totally fine with, like, downgrading. And if you're listening on the audio feed, I just made air quotes because I'm not sure it's actually a downgrade. But, like, Addison, they're the same player to me. Like, can I downgrade to Addison and get a plus on top? Olave has more upside if he can stay healthy than Zay Flowers. DJ Moore, obviously there's uncertainty because they brought in lots of other weapons. But, like, DJ Moore has been much better for fantasy and I think is more talented than Zay Flowers.
Like Buka, right?
Yeah, Ibuka. I mean, Pearsall, even, like, if I can quote unquote downgrade to Ricky Pearsall and get a plus on top, heck, even Josh Downs. Like, I know the situation's murky right now, but, like, they're probably going to give similar wide receiver 3-ish production and similar in age, similar in talent and how I view them as players. And you're going to probably get a pretty big plus with Downs, I would guess. I would even be fine getting a difference-making vet, like an older guy like Mike Evans or Devontae Adams, and probably scooping a decent-sized plus on top because of the age difference. And so those guys, if I'm a contender, those guys are going to help me more than Zay Flowers in the short term, and I'm probably going to get a draft pick on top. So those are all moves that I would be interested in making. I like Zay Flowers as a player, but I don't really understand his price given what he's actually shown us in the NFL so far.
No, I 100% agree with that. I think it's what you hit the nail on the head, right? When you were like, he's still young enough that people think the upside is there when it may not be, right? Like, I liked his tape coming out. I thought he was a good player. I don't think he's in a spot right now where he can thrive as a true number one, and that's what the Ravens are asking him to do. If I can get those guys and get a draft pick, like, that's a better move long-term for your team anyway. So I'm on board with you there.
Yeah. In Walkstep, I had him in 1 week, and he was like wide receiver 9, I think, like halfway through the year. But he had like one monster week, I think it was against Denver, where he went for like 127 yards and 2 touchdowns. And he had 2 other touchdowns that first 9 weeks, and then no touchdowns for the rest of the season. His targets went down the rest of the season. So it seems like people are still valuing him based on like that first half of last year. When we look at the full picture, like you talked about, Coop, at best he seems like a wide receiver too.
For sure. So that is going to be it for our main show here. Wide receiver buys, wide receiver sells. Hopefully we gave you guys some actionable advice that you can go put some trades in inboxes and maybe get some deals done that help your dynasty roster. Before we log off and go record this bonus episode where we go over our running back rankings, I did want to thank you guys for listening. Encourage y'all to leave us a 5-star review on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. It really helps people find the show as we continue to grow and build the Couch Scouts family. And if you haven't, definitely check out our free Discord. You can find it in the show notes on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And if you're on X right now watching live, you can go to the link in our bio and find the Discord link there. But it's totally free. We just want to get to know the people that are listening to the show. You can go in there and post your trades to get advice and input. You can tag us and we'll give our thoughts. But there's a whole community of other people, 200 plus people in there that'll be really quick to respond and give you input and give you advice. During the season, we do start sit decisions. We react to breaking news. I mean, it's a great community, a lot of really good people in there. So definitely encourage you to check out the Discord. But we appreciate you guys listening, and we'll see you next week.